So there is a company that is a money printing machine, and this machine doesn't need maintenance, it doesn't need fuel. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but the cost of running this business is absolutely minimal. So what does this company do? Is it software? Is it AI? Is it some groundbreaking new technology? Well, not exactly. This company was established in 1888, 136 years ago, and was initially created to manage the sale and distribution of land from the railroad to settlers in Texas. I'm talking about Texas Pacific Land Corporation. Today, this corporation operates mainly as a land management company and is one of the largest private landowners in Texas. They are basically leasing land to other companies and organizations, so their costs are super low. They get royalties from oil and gas and water production, which takes place on their land. And they just announced that they will invest more and more into water desalination. I actually have an old share certificate from this company. Well, to be precise, it is a copy of a certificate, but it looks beautiful, so I like it. Okay, so we have this money printing machine, but why am I talking about it right now? Well, first of all, they just went through a 3-for-1 stock split, so that can sometimes create an investment opportunity. Also, one of the board members is buying shares on a daily basis, and that is very encouraging. And finally, they just published their quarterly results. And they are really interesting. Revenue went up by 19% year over year. Net income went up by 32.2%. Cash went up by 15.4% in just 3 months. And they have no debt. After they published these results, the stock went up by 9.2% in 1 day. So a lot is happening, but first, let's take a look at the past performance of this stock. If you were to invest $1,000 into this company 10 years ago, you could buy around 19 shares, if we take into account the recent stock split. And now, they would be worth something close to $10,811. And this company also pays dividends, so in that time you would get $619 as dividends. So if we add together the current value of shares and the dividends, we get $11,430. And that is a gain of 1,043% in 10 years. Well, let's take a look at this company to see, is it possible to keep this trend going? Individual insiders, that is an X, 0.2% of the company is owned by individual insiders, and we would like to see this number over 2%. So the management does not have its skin in the game. And are individual insiders buying? That is a check. Mary Stahl, who is a board member of Texas Pacific Land Corporation, is buying shares almost every day. And he's doing so at least since 2022. He currently owns almost 0.04% of the company. But he's also a CEO of Horizon Kinetics, which owns another 4.72% of this corporation. So here we have a very experienced investor that is putting his own money and his company's money into Texas Pacific Land Corporation that he knows and understands really well as a board member. I think that is encouraging. And do super investors own this company? That is a check. David Rolfe owns currently shares worth $6.7 million. And is he buying right now? That is an X. He sold 1.5% of his position recently. Return on invested capital, that is a check at 87.2% 10-year median returns. That is incredible. That is why I called it a money printing machine. And what do we know about net profit margin? It is a check at 64.2%, and the industry median is just 19.6%. They are mainly leasing land to other companies and organizations, so their costs are super low. And now let's take a look at share buyback. It is a check they bought back 10.9% of their shares in the last 10 years. And the debt? It is a check Texas Pacific Land Corporation does not have any debt. I like that a lot. I mean, it is mainly just a simple business of owning land and getting money from other people that want to use it. And the results are mind-blowing. Revenue growth, that is a check at 30.5% 10-year compound annual growth rate. Now, that is surprising. I really didn't expect such a growth. And free cash flow growth, that is a check at 29.5% in the last 10 years. So the same story here. And earnings per share growth, that is also a check at 32.5% in the last 10 years. So again, the share buyback program elevated the per share growth. Not only the financial health, but also the growth is super impressive. The dividend yield is 0.8%, so shareholders can expect to get $4.67 annually per share. It is a small yield, but let's dig a little bit deeper. The payout ratio. That is a check at 24.6%. And we want to see the payout ratio somewhere between 20 and 50%, so that is a very secure dividend. And what about dividend growth? It is a check at 66% 5-year growth rate. But before we get too excited, this dividend is dependent on the results of the company. So it is not a stable dividend, and we can't really expect such growth to continue. Price to earnings ratio is 34.9, so that is very high. We already know that it is a great company, but this ratio indicates that it is also expensive. But let's value it using a discounted cash flow formula. We will have to estimate the growth of Texas Pacific Land Corporation for the next 10 years, and we will make 3 scenarios of this growth. So, in the low scenario, we will estimate a growth of 15% for the first 5 years and then 12%. In the medium, 20% and then 15%, and in the high scenario, 25% and then 20% growth. So the low scenario is basically half of the growth we saw in the last 10 years. Medium is a few percentage points higher, and the high one is still lower than the growth we saw in the last years. So even though those growth estimates seem high, they are actually not that crazy when we look at the history of Texas Pacific Land Corporation. So, with such estimates, the intrinsic value in the low scenario is $531, in the medium $702, and in the high scenario $989. But we have to always apply a margin of safety to those prices. I use a 30% one. And with such a margin, we get in the low scenario $372, in the medium $491, and in the high scenario $692. And the current price is around $615. So it seems that this company is currently somewhere close to its fair value. Texas Pacific Land Corporation is a great company. Financial health, growth, insiders, dividends, it's all good or even very good. Actually, when we look at our stock ranking, which you can get access to by becoming a Patreon, we see that it is definitely one of the best companies I have ever analyzed. And the price is not that high. So it is something to think about. If you would like to learn more about investing, then check out my video about the best websites for investors or a video about living off dividends. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.